Episode number 302 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast, a space where you can find empowerment on your fertility journey. I'm your host, Michelle Orovitz, and I wanted to pop in before we get started to mention that if you haven't already heard, I've released my new book, The Way of Fertility, that has been created for those who have tried everything to conceive and are simply unsure of what else they can do. This book shares tried and true wisdom from ancient teachings along with modern research that supports much of what has been taught for centuries. It has been made with love, and the stories shared will serve to awaken hope within you. If you'd like to give it a test drive, I offer the first chapter for free, and you can find a link with more information in the episode notes. I would also like to extend an invitation to you as part of our beautiful community to share your thoughts and experiences by leaving a review of the podcast. Your words have incredible power to inspire others who are also seeking comfort on their fertility journey. And for anyone who has already left a review, thank you from the bottom of my heart. My guest today is Dr. Allison Snowden. Dr. Snowden is a renowned healer, coach, medical intuitive, and theta healing expert with over 15 years of experience serving thousands of clients and students from around the world. She offers highly sought-after services, including in-person and virtual healing sessions, group sessions, and retreats. Dr. Snowden also trains other healers and medical professionals through her signature programs and courses within the Awakening Institute. She holds a doctorate of acupuncture and Chinese medicine from the Pacific College of Health and Sciences in San Diego, California, and has advanced training through the Theta Healing Institute. Dr. Snowden continues her professional development through regularly attending courses, workshops, and seminars. Her diverse multidisciplinary experiences in healing, yoga, integrative medicine, traditional medicine, and theta healing enable her to help patients prevent and recover from trauma-related damage by identifying and releasing the root causes of illness and challenges. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Snowden.
Hi.
So nice to meet you. And as I'm sitting here, I see you. Not everybody's going to be seeing this because it's a podcast. But I see a beautiful flower of life behind Dr. Snowden, and we both are like really obsessed with that that symbol. So we'll definitely talk about that. But before we get started, I would love for you to introduce yourself, give us your background, how you got inspired to do the work that you do today.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on here. My name's Dr. Allison Snowden. I'll just go with the formal, and then I'll get into the real juicy stuff, right? I have my doctorate and master's in Chinese integrative medicine. I also did massage therapy for about 10 years as well. And also did a lot of energy work training, Reiki, all of the ones. Like, I think my whole 20s and 30s, I was just doing extra seminars. So I definitely am an education junkie because, in my value system, really what we take out of this world is experiences, knowledge, and like our consciousness. And so I really value investing in my education, but then also just in really up-leveling my consciousness. And my journey as a healer, I feel like I was born into a healing family. My mom's a nurse, my dad's a physician. So I feel like it's just a part of my blood. And I feel like my first initiation in that was my sister had childhood cancer when I was 6. And so she was really sick for a year. And I think that's just when that part of me was activated of like, how can I help her? What is going on? And also just really just wanting to understand why the human body isn't working, what is going on. So I think that was the first initiation. And it was very hard for me because I was a very empathetic, very sensitive child, very shy. People that I meet now, my 40s, they're like, you shy? And I was like, oh yeah, I worked really hard on it. And so it was really just seeing her go through chemo. She survived. And then for about 10 years, she would just get sick. And so they didn't know she had an autoimmune deficiency at that point. But I just saw her getting sick, missing school. She had to be on IV antibiotics, and I was just like, why? This just seems like it's not getting anywhere. Like it's just the cyclical thing. I also was mortified at how people treated her sometimes. I'm very mortified on how people treat chronic pain patients and just people in general sometimes. I mean, let's just be honest, like the lack of sometimes kindness and compassion just for people that are going through something, just for the normal person sometimes isn't there. And that I witnessed that as an observer, going to get my sister's homework. And my sister always looked beautiful, even though she had cancer or she had, high mono levels and so like a lot of people just didn't have like a scarcity of compassion. So that was that was very impressionable on me at that age. It actually really mortified me because I never thought that there was there's always endless compassion. What is it? How does it hurt someone to give someone compassion? So at a young age, I didn't really understand that. And then I just saw a lot of death. And so I was like in this kind of, I grew up in upper middle class, society where it looked like our life was, picture perfect. And I had a lot of love in my family, but my sister was continuously sick. They didn't know. And then everyone who she went through chemo with was just dropping dead. And so there was just a lot of death. So I started to pray to God. I was like, I want to understand what the hell life is about. Cause I see, it's something to see when you see your sister who's getting a spinal tap done and they didn't, use any anesthesia, and you see how all of this stuff, it's just like micro traumas. You see this and you're like, what is going on? So I just prayed. And my cousin died around when I was 14, just in an accident like that. So it was just kind of like all these things. And I think I just had an existential crisis and I was just praying very hard. I didn't know about manifestation back then. I didn't know any of those principles, but I just was like, God, show me what life is about. God, what happens when you die? I need to know I just had this overwhelming need to understand. So a year and a half later, sister is yet again in the hospital and they just find out that she has an autoimmune disease that was associated with her cancer. It was Burkitt's lymphoma and it was associated with a CD4 immune disease. And so they were like, do not go on spring break. My parents had already paid for it. I already had a friend coming. So we went and I'm not going to get into like the details of that, but I had a near death experience. I was assaulted and then run over by a motor vehicle that was going about 60 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
So
Wow.
I had a near death experience. I, shot out if anyone's listening to this, I know it's not a death podcast, but I think
No, talk about it because I actually find this really interesting and I think we can learn a lot.
because my cousin died of a violent, pretty catastrophic motor vehicle accident. And I was worried that he was in pain and he died alone. And I just created this drama in my head, how horrible it was for him. And I'm just here to say that doesn't happen. It's very quick. I didn't feel a thing. I went up into this unconditional love of just pure bliss, love, all-knowing homeness. And I always say to people, that was the best vacation I've ever taken, literally just unconditional love. It's beyond time and space. And I felt like I was just restored and remembered a lot of things when I was up there. But it was part of my path, I think, to be a healer and really to understand trauma and also and how to heal it, and also especially with women as well. And so I had all of these different downloads up there, and I decided to go back. And when I was almost, and when you decide, it's like faster than light, it just is like you're in your body. I was like, as I was going in, like that voice of the divine was like, bring this energy down to earth. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, I would be sitting in the hospital. I'm like, how am I like, can you like translate that for me? Like, can you like give me a to-do list? Like, what do you mean? Right. So, I come back, there's a whole drama of getting me back home. I had to have, emergency surgery. And then I was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital for about 3 years. And then I had like more years of just nutrient deficiencies that no one found because I was not going to a functional medicine doctor or someone who really took time. I had a thyroid condition, no one diagnosed. So the lack of care and the aftermath of that really made me suffer. And it's not that anyone had any bad intentions. It's just like in our medical system,
it's the system.
Like once the bones are healed, which took 3.5 years, which was insane. So many orthopedic surgeries because my bones wouldn't heal because they were so badly broken. Like once they were healed, they're like, you're good. And I'm like, whoa, what happened to my last 3 years of my life? And then I felt like that's when all the emotional stuff came up, because before I was just like so focused on getting, let's heal this leg, the arm, like all of this stuff, learning how to walk again, how many times, And so then it was like, whoa, just what happened? And that's when like a lot of, depression, PTSD, all of that stuff. And, like, I think like the psychiatrist said, they're like, I was crying and I felt like I was grieving, and they're like, oh, more than 3 weeks. Oh, well, you're depressed, all this stuff. So, I think there's a whole conversation that can be had around the medicalization of just life events and like, how that intersects and how we can support, but how does that repress it? Because I really feel like when we grieve, when we cry, there's such an like, it's like in Chinese medicine, it's like the tears are the liquid of the liver. It's like there's change coming. So I really feel like, that there's conversation there. But I just was like a mess. I had chronic pain. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, depression, PTSD, anxiety. And then I was told I was always going to be in pain. So that was like my first mission to get myself out of physical pain. And that took a while. And I also wanted to run again. And everyone said I was crazy. And I actually did that about 10 years, but it was great. The thing that I think I really want to like share, and I always try to like distill, because I always like to share when I'm talking about my story, because my story is super dramatic and I know this, but the power that like we all come from that source energy and we all have access to it. Mm-hmm. And we all have the right to have that, that connection, that direct connection. And if I can do it, you can do it. I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, I can't because I didn't have a near-death experience or da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, you can, And I really feel in modern times, we've really got disconnected with our bodies. We've really gotten disconnected with our own power because we've outsourced our healing to other healers, to a system. And we've really, especially us women, like our body and our power has been dispersed. And so I really feel that as a woman, because I am a woman, some people are like, ask me about like men's journeys and men healing. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a woman. And like, I know what I know. And I've had trauma, I've had sexual trauma. And I think women, as women, we are much more prone, like sexual violence is is one of the most costly things for a woman to go through, just on a psychological level of recovery. And also, I think our whole spiritual journey as women, this is just my view, is really reclaiming our power and our safety and reclaiming our body too. And what happens is with trauma or with sexual assault or something, or even just emotional abandonment, there's like this unsafety wound that comes up. And if you know the chakras, that's kind of in the first and the second chakra. And if you don't have your power, you don't have your safety, you're not anchored, you're not grounded. And then you have people that always are ruminating, overthinking, trying to figure out all the little details of the plan before they get started because because that fear is there. And and so I've just been on a journey, and I started practicing, doing massage while I did massage and Reiki, started teaching that, then went to grad school, and I was always working through that. And then I started my practice in 2013. And I've always just been a healer, healing myself and then sharing it with others. I always feel like I'm just so pro client, pro patient, because I resonate more with that role than I do Dr. Allison, I am in the trenches I've been in the trenches, and I've been really bad physically, mentally, emotionally, and I got through it. And I tried a lot of things that didn't work. And I went on a lot of U-turns, but I kept on going. And so I feel like I'm just a really good resource for anyone that because I've just been studying medicine and been in-depth training on many different platforms: functional medicine, theta healing, subconscious reprogramming, other subconscious reprogramming stuff, and then functional medicine, and then Chinese medicine, and then also massage and energy medicine. So all of our energy, our muscle, our physical being and our energetic being, these are all interconnected. And also really, I've done a lot of training and then also research into, nervous system and how do we heal trauma and what does that feel like and how is that experience and how is that experience within my body and how does that shift my hormones? How does that shift my perception of reality now, reality there? And how does that affect, my mood and my thoughts? So I felt like I was thrown into the fire of just, mess of just, medical. I mean, it was a medical miracle I survived. And another miracle that I didn't have brain damage or anything like that. But I'm just really just on a mission to really help people heal faster and more effectively and really reclaiming their power and also reclaiming their power and their relationship with their body. I think when we have trauma, and this can be emotional trauma, or it can be physical, sexual, a lot of women internalize it because maybe there's not an outlet for anger, or maybe that's not conditioned into us. And so it gets turned inward. And that is then there's that inner war. And so I just really love working with women, helping them reconnect to their power and to their healing potential and their body and the wisdom of their body. Because, our body has so much to tell us if we just listen. And I think just modern culture, just because of the indoctrination of marketing or whatever, social media, what all of that, has really disconnected us from the amazing wonderment of our body. And, our bodies are our best friends. They are our co-pilots. It is the sacred vessel that is holding our soul. And it's constantly communicating with us. And in fact, my body and my soul, when I need a message, my body and my soul are working together to get my attention,
Yeah.
They're not, my body is never in pain I think one of the things that humans do, and I've done it, is we get mad at our body because we think our body is falling apart just to spite us or just, and I just have to tell you that there's nothing more far from the truth.
Yeah.
Like our body is like, I had this moment where I couldn't sleep because I was so uncomfortable in my body. Like after going through that many surgeries, I couldn't feel comfortable in my body. I was in pain and my leg was hurting. And I was just like, I'm like, and I heard this voice that was like, put your hands on your leg. And I was like, okay. So I like put my hands on my leg and my body started talking to me and was like, hey, miss, stop hating me. I did not do this to you. This happened to us. This is, horrible for me. I'm working 500 million times harder than right leg over there. And all you can do is like send me hatred and how ugly I look. Cause it was like skinned and looked very, I couldn't move my foot. And she's like, you think I ruined your life? I did not ruin your life. This happened to us. So stop sending me hatred. And if you want me to heal faster, and if you want to help the process, send me love.
Oh, wow.
And I was
That's
like,
profound.
whoa.
Yeah.
So I call my left leg the sassy left leg. He always tells me the truth, And I think a lot of us badly to our body. I mean, I guess it's somewhat natural if something hurts, maybe to get angry at it. But I guess really our body is in pain for a reason. It's a signal.
Yes.
And your body has a language with you. And if you can get beyond that, your body is supposed to perform at like 100% no matter what you do to it. That is the internal dialogue or how you treat it or how you fill it up with and, treat it like sleep, self-care or lack of self-care. Our ego just thinks it's just supposed to perform and just always be like on without like any like check-in. And so I think just there is such a magical world of your relationship, like you within you and you within your body, and my body, whenever I've been pain-free the second time, because I had a weird septic infection like 6 years ago. That was another medical thing that I went through, but I've been pain-free from that for about 4 years. And anytime there's something going on with my body, like I'm like, what do I need to do? What are you trying to say to me? And also, going into like what I do full time now, I was in functional medicine and Chinese medicine for a good 10 years. And then I started to notice, with like my pain patients, my patients with autoimmune or, menstrual stuff, there's like all these different things. And we were pretty good at getting them better, but there's a subset of people who weren't getting better. And I could see in their eyes, they wanted to get better. But there was just this like, there's something that I wasn't getting. And I was like, this is nervous system. This is trauma stuff. And so I took a theta healing class, and my first theta healing class. And I was like, wow, I'm home, like home as in the vibration of when I crossed over, and felt so much better. And so I took another class. And then I like took all the classes and the teacher trainings in like 2 years, which was like crazy fast track. I also, and so with theta healing and I practice trauma-informed theta healing because some people that practice theta healing or energy medicine or Reiki or that, they're not trained to understand what trauma, disassociation, what different things are like. And that lack of knowledge can sometimes create maybe a gap in how they see the client. And a lot of untrained, even acupuncturists, medical doctors, and you'd be surprised how many psychotherapists aren't trauma informed, which I was like, wait, shouldn't they all be? That can actually that ignorance can end up hurting the client, blaming them in some way, insinuating some way that they don't want to get better. And that's like so far beyond what the reality is. But with theta healing, it's the intersection. So between belief systems, old that's stored in the body. And so it's a technique to really release these old imprints that are in our organs. If you've had sexual trauma, it's in the tissue, of our second chakra. Like, our body holds memory, and it's an intersection with that and belief systems and, emotional patterns, unconscious emotional patterns that just come up. And I think this is such a powerful access, because belief systems and your consciousness and how you feel and your inner state, your like inner atmosphere is everything.
Yeah.
Because if your inner state, if the thing with trauma is people are like, it's in the past. Actually, guys, newsflash, if you have unresolved trauma, it's actually not in the past. It's operating as it is alive now.
Yes.
And this is not the fault of the person who was traumatized. It's because how the brain operates. Because I know I exist beyond this physical body as this energetic being that doesn't need a body, because I crossed over. Right now I'm in a body and I'm in a nervous system and I have a brain. And I think that was what was so peculiar to me, because I had this enlightened experience about, fear is not real. All that really matters is loving yourself and loving others. And then I go totally down to this 15-year-old body and I get anchored back in my soul. My soul gets anchored back into this nervous system that's like, oh no, it's not about love. Like, I couldn't sleep, it was trauma. My body was traumatized. So I was just like, I felt slightly imprisoned, by that trauma, because I knew how beautiful life was and what my soul was capable of. But I had to face and heal the trauma. And it was I tried everything. So I feel like I've been my first patient always and my first testing ground. And so if something works for me, I'm like, I want to share it, because like, I think when you've suffered, a lot, like I always said, if I get to help other people and their suffering, and I see it now every day. And it's one of the most amazing things about my job. You see people's affect and just their whole state change and their whole world open up when they heal old traumas, old belief systems. And we have so many belief systems and programs. We've been programs that are operating below our consciousness, and it's just on automatic. And I really do think that this is also the kind of meeting point between healing and also like enlightenment, healing, and like total embodiment, embodying your power, being in your body. I mean, like really in your body, because I got to tell you, if you've had any trauma, emotional trauma, medical trauma, you're probably not totally present.
Yes.
You're not totally grounded in your root chakra. And I can remember people being like, you need to ground. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, I just did 90 minutes of yoga. That didn't work. I did yoga for 13 years. It helped, but it didn't, lock me in. And so I really do think that I'm so grateful that I stumbled onto this technique, because it really, in a laser way, really did a lot of good healing work in a really short amount of time. And I never thought it was possible. Like, I never thought it was possible because, I'd lived with like 20 years of anxiety and PTSD, managing this condition. And it was like 2 years ago where I'm healing, teaching, I'm taking more courses. And there was a healing that happened. And I was like, whoa, I'm in my body. And I was like, oh, this is really nice, And then I started to talk to women, and I'm like, when I talk to them, I'm like, and I'm intuitively tuning in, what I see is like, okay, they have their programming from society that's been indoctrinated. I'm supposed to have a baby at da 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 da. I'm supposed to do this. My husband wants this. This person wants this. This person wants this. I got to get the kids. Da 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 da. All these different things. I want to please everyone. How can I please everyone? Then there's the unconscious resentment because who's going to take care of me? And so when I scan someone, I can feel all of these little programs operating, like going like that with women. And that's usually from like a fawn response, of like people pleasing, because all of us, I don't know, maybe not all of us, because that's a generalization, but a lot of girls are conditioned, if we please others, and that's good girl, maybe that's changing. I mean, I was born in the 80s, so maybe that's different. But so how is that relevant to like, fertility, to women's health, is that all of this is operating within your body, and these programs and these beliefs are very strong. They affect your hormones. They affect if your cortisol is going up. It is. I know there's some trauma survivors who are like, people are like, oh, just stop being so stressed. Well, that's a little complex. If you've had abuse, if you've had neglect, it's not it, like going to the doctor or being like, oh yeah, just do some 10 minutes of meditation. So no, that probably is not going to solve it, So first you have to know, like, know yourself and I think what the thing is that a lot of people, my story is very dramatic and they're like, she had trauma. It's pretty dramatic, but I want to say that a lot of times if you have large gaps in memory of your childhood, if you have certain fears or things like that you can't trace back, your body remembers what your mind doesn't. And and there really isn't really true suppression of it, because, it's either going to come out in your mental health, your perception of yourself, or in your habits or your lack of self-love. Because a lot of times in order to deal with trauma, we turn into self-hatred, or we recreate those mean voices inside our own internal narrative. And that has consequences on our body. So, or, it'll show up as an autoimmune disorder later, or cancer, so it's there, I feel like people have a catalyst, whether it's, trying to have a baby or having a disease or an accident or something where it really, makes us look inward.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I thought about so many things when you were talking, and I can really relate, coming from my own experience and wanting to do more for others. And I think that a lot of us in the healing world started out as patients ourselves, and worked through a lot to see that we can do that. I think a lot, when I think about trauma, I think a lot about the nervous system. And you mentioned that the nervous system is kind of like a channel of information. And think about just experiences in life. We store information. We're living in a time where we are bombarded with information. Women are growing up with all kinds of information, not all true. A lot of it's not true. And then we take in that information, store it in our body, and it's not based in truth, not based in reality. And you had mentioned kind of connecting with that divine wisdom that is always there waiting for us to tap into. We have that. It's our birthright. So, I mean, so many of these things I really relate to. And I think that that's what it is. It's really creating, really living in our truth, because I feel like the truth is kind of like the light, the purification, the shedding of things that are not true. And I kind of feel like that's, if you think about trauma and all these beliefs, they're basically untruths, things that are not true that we are taking in, we're storing in our body, and it doesn't align with our consciousness. And when you said like that we're not in our bodies, I totally relate to that. You think about shamanistic work. They always retrieve souls. They retrieve part of ourselves, like part of ourselves leaves our body. People talk about this in, horrible victim situations where they leave their bodies, and it's kind of like a part of our soul leaves. And I talk a lot about this, with chi, what's chi, life force, vitality. When we create awareness, our awareness actually opens us up to more chi. And when we lose that chi and our awareness is off or out, then we're lacking that life force vitality. And so that consciousness or the lack thereof, if we have a lack of consciousness in certain parts of our body, then it causes more opportunistic energy to come in.
Exactly. And it's I think it's our truth and our power, right? Like
Yeah.
I really do think as women, because those are the like, because I've been working and scanning a lot of people for a long time, and probably one of the most common patterns that I see is just disempowered, like root and sacral. And
Mm-hmm.
so when those chakras are disempowered, I'm like, oh, there's a safety issue. Then there's a power issue, a sexual issue, a creativity issue, a
Mm-hmm.
receiving, because, if you've had sexual trauma, like you probably have there may be some issues of receiving things from others, right?
Mm-hmm.
All trauma is usually, unless it's a, national disaster, all trauma is usually delivered somewhat through another human. And
Mm-hmm.
so that really, and that is real. And then a lot of us, to put another, nuance on that, a lot of people, especially if they had childhood trauma, neglect, abuse, a lot of people don't even know that was, neglect or abuse until they're older, just how our brain is developed and how that happens. But also if there was something like molestation or sexual trauma, and there's, most people are gaslit,
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was just like scrolling on something. I was looking for something on the internet, and then I don't know, I saw something, I guess it was like on Facebook, and there's these like raw stories about just people's childhoods. And I just like went into the comments, and I sometimes do this. I feel like it's sometimes just some of my advocacy. I'm like just two comments, Allison, then you have to get back to work. But just people, like someone saying, oh, her story's not making sense, or da 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 da,
Questioning.
questioning her. And I'm like, no one wants to go through this,
There's a
and
lot of that out there. It's really sad to see.
it is. And it really is. So, I mean, just to anyone who's, and I've spoken out about my experience, like, and some people are like, oh, like, all of these different things. And I think our culture is like a major issue with judgment. And
Big time.
and I just, it is just amazing to me, like the lack of empathy, the lack of real inner connection to self and real connection to others. And that like people just say things like, I think they're just getting out their anger and, like forgetting that these are human beings that may read these comments. But yeah, I mean, like with the gaslighting. So that's another thing that happens with trauma. Oh, it wasn't that bad, or that type of thing. So I really do think also it's like with trauma, if you didn't have someone to help you process the emotions, trauma is also what didn't happen. So if someone wasn't there for you, if someone wasn't there to help you process your emotions, maybe you didn't have parents that knew how to process emotions because they were dysregulated all the time.
Yeah.
So just the part of feeling, learning that skill and feeling is really important. Like as in Chinese medicine, our emotions, the over or under expression of our emotions can cause disease, or the stagnation of that
Definitely.
can cause disease. And that's why I love Chinese medicine as like my base point, because it acknowledges that now if you look in the research, like in the 70s, there was like psychoneuroimmunology was just coming out, and people were like, oh, this is such, BS. But like now it's like, yes, like it's validating that, everything is connected to everything. And this old, like Descartes kind of, the mind is over here and the body's here, and they operate like is just kind of actually like real, just that's just been disproven over and over. But
I think we're definitely moving into a new era. I really do. I feel like things are breaking down. It's hard to watch, but I feel like things are breaking down that are not working. And I think people are starting to see it. People are
Yeah.
starting to see the staleness of some of the old systems. It just doesn't really, it's not relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's interesting. I say old system because ancient medicine has been around forever, but they consider the spirit. They don't just look at us as a body.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
acknowledge it.
the spirit, the emotions, and also all of the little intricacies of life and nuances and connection. And I think that's you were talking about the nervous system. So I think I love have you heard of polyvagal theory? It's about just the different branches of the nervous system, and like our ventral vagal part of our nervous system is the least most like new evolutionary. And so ventral vagal is like our social aspect. Like you're safe, I can connect to you, and I can connect to myself. And but if we go into sympathetic or into, kind of shutdown, freeze mode, those are the different stress points. So like when you're in those different nervous system states where if you've been in a collapse mode or freeze mode, you're like numb, withdraw, there's physical symptoms that go with it. And then also mental, like emotional aspects that go with it. When you're in fight flight, your nervous system and your perception, your body is really like being like, it is not safe for me to connect out there, and it's looking for cues for danger. And so how theta healing and the work that I do is that I work with the individual because unhealed belief systems from trauma or just even conditioning, and a lot of these are subconscious, unconscious, they're alive in your nervous system, and they'll turn on your stress response when it's not needed, right? So when you heal a trauma, then it's no longer in your consciousness. It's no longer disrupting you, or I never had like issues with remembering my trauma, but there are people who have repressed trauma in more shut down mode. But I don't know, for me, I thought like I was just going to have to manage my PTSD because I tried so many different, you name it, I tried all of the things. And I had, I never ever gave up, but I was like, hey, Al, like maybe this is, and I was like, I'm never going to stop trying. And, it wasn't, one class or one session, or even, it was a cumulative of a lot of work with me because I had such extreme like violence that my body remembered. But like, I did get there where I finally was like, oh my God, I feel safe.
Amazing.
And
that's awesome.
And girls, like all the women on here, that is the best thing I've ever felt in my life. And it is the best thing, that for every woman, because when your soul is like anchored into all your chakras and you feel safe in your body, like there's your heaven on earth.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. That's powerful.
It is. And I literally, I'm like, you know what? No amount of money could make me like give this away. Like, not that I could, but
yeah.
But like, I think what happens is sometimes our ego, I'm sure, because we're all human, we've done this, this is how my ego worked. Allison, when you have the boyfriend, when you have this or the marriage or you have
the
this
conditions, all the conditions,
all the external, this is how everyone's ego tricks them. When you achieve something outside of yourself, then it will change how you feel inside. And hey guys, it does for like maybe a day, right, or maybe a week, or maybe the honeymoon period for 3 months or something. But eventually, like that is not the way. And it's like really changing our programming. So our programming, our conditioning from childhood, our identities, our stories, that they show up as narratives. Because when we're little, our brain, when we experience pain as a little kid, we're trying to understand how to not make that happen again. And from our little brain that is not an adult brain, that doesn't see adults as flawed human beings, the little child brain is like, oh, my parent is not paying attention to me, then there must be something wrong with me.
Right.
And then there's that adaptation. Maybe I'll just be more perfect. Maybe I'll work hard. So then you have all of these adults that are just living these adaptations,
Mm-hmm.
you
That's
know,
true.
from, I'm not shaming that at all because we all do it because we all have to survive and we all are coming from that. There's a lot of talk about authenticity, but do people really think that their authentic self is their stories their ego tells themselves, or the stories that their trauma tells themselves, or the stories that the bullies at school back in fourth grade tells them? And how do you really know that it's healed? Right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of people like, I don't, especially men, they're like, I don't need healing. I'm over that. And I'm like, well, let's ask your body. And so with
Right.
healing, we like, in a session like I do, we make in theta healing, the subconscious is divided into 4 different levels. So in other systems, it's not divided in that, but in theta healing, we have the core level, which is this life. So in utero up to, this moment in time, genetics. So, what in our bloodline, what traumas and also what traits carried the genetics forward, what belief systems. And then there's the historic, which is the collective consciousness, because we're all connected, and then
Right.
all these collective thoughts, but then also past lives. So, and then the deepest part is your soul, because your soul, guys, maybe you forgot it for a little bit, but all of us have this energy, and we decided, or we are incarnated for a reason. And each of you, because I've been over on I've peeked behind the other side. Each of us have a very specific reason why we're here, and different experiences we want to experience, and different virtues as in compassion, love. We want to grow through our consciousness, our frequency grows through experience.
Yeah.
And as we have different experiences, we get to learn a lot. And I really love this part of theta healing because our soul, and I can speak to this, like, I think sometimes, so when I was like overlooking the earth and I saw like my body and I saw what was happening or what had happened, I mean, my soul was like, well, I thought I was going to survive this, but okay, I'll get another body and we'll just go back down there. It's like, I think sometimes we get so entrenched in oh, this is who I am. I'm
The
this
attachment to like this.
attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to this body, to whatever, even the drama
And
that's
the
going on,
problems and yeah.
even the political, all of it. It's like there. And it's like, but from your soul's perspective, it's like a little drop in the bucket,
Right. It is. Yeah. I mean, we can get very sucked into to so many different things, and you could see it kind of in the micro too, like just throughout your life. If you have something that you're thinking about, write it down. Actually, my husband said that. A friend of his mom said, write down whatever put it in your drawer, open it up a month from now, and then ask yourself again, are you still as upset? And he did that. And he said that really, and he was a teenager at the time, he said that really opened my mind to just how things end up working out and how much energy we put into problems. But this is amazing information. Of course, I can speak to you for hours, but we're kind of nearing the end. If people are interested, like what's the process? How can they find you and how can they work with you?
Yeah. So I'm my website is www.drsnowden. That's DRSNOWDEN.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Dr. Allison Snowden. And through there, I do one-on-one. And then what I'm really passionate about, I love doing my one-on-ones, and I love teaching others to access this and to do it to themselves, because we all need help.
That's amazing. I love that.
But I really think this is a skill set that is going to be like, brushing your teeth, like for mental, emotional, spiritual balance, and it's powerful. If you have a limiting belief, like you can say, oh, I don't believe that. But guess what, guys? Your body believes it. Mm-hmm. So like just because you say you don't believe it, like there is that. So theta, I do theta healing classes, and it's a curriculum. So you have to do them. You have to do them in order. The next one is in September. So I usually have a beginning cohort in September, January, and sometimes I do a mini, like condensed, like session in June. So I think if you want to just upgrade your life and heal, like, and also in these classes, we have professional healers, we have doctors, we have healers, but then we have just regular people that just want to, get more connected to their intuition, to heal themselves like quicker and faster. And it's such a simple thing, and everyone can learn how to do it. And
I love that.
I want, like, I just, like, one of my dreams, like, is I just want to get, like, I want this to just be like, because, when I was talking about this, when I was like in 99, now it's like 2024, but I'm pretty excited like you, because we've come a long way, but, I think everyone, needs to learn at least, the basics of self-healing. Because
100%. They should teach us this in school. I mean, it's just, it's right? Empowerment 101. I mean, really, like, just be able to be empowered. Like, it's our birthright. 100%.
It is. And so I love that. That's just like my thing right now, is just to get a lot of people. There's the first 4 classes are weekend classes. And then the one that, if you guys want a miracle or want a whole paradigm shift, Intuitive Anatomy is a 15-day class, and we go through, you would love this, other healers love this. So we go and clear each system. So the digestive system, that has a lot of abuse programs in it. Mm-hmm. So we have a whole day and about 200 beliefs that we check, and we do healings and clearings on. And like, people just feel different things, like
amazing.
It's amazing. Awesome. When your perspective changes, your physiology changes.
Your whole world changes. I love it. I love it. This is, of course, all the stuff that I love talking about. And I'm so happy you came on. Your story is so inspiring, and I love what you're doing for so many other people. Guys, got to check out her Instagram. It's a lot of fun. She shares a lot of awesome information. I really enjoy it myself.
Good.
Dr. Allison, it was such a pleasure to meet you. I knew that I was going to like you. And thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my gosh. I love talking to you, and you have such a, like, just a beautiful energy, and like, just really like because I do a lot of different podcasts, and I just felt so like at home here. And I just like want to share that with you, because it's just like, I just like, your energy is just so welcoming and so loving. And I just like, I'm like, God, I just love my like healer women. We're just so, I just, I just absolutely had it was so great being in this space with you.
Oh, that means a lot to me. I really received that. And I appreciate it. And I feel likewise. I mean, I really love your energy. So I think it's synchronistic. So thank you again so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Sending you so much love, and thank you for listening, anyone who's listened. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to email us or send us a DM. And we're here to help you guys heal and love your body, love your life, create what you want.
Amen.
Yes.
Awesome.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.